You know that diversifying away from the financial sector is on my holiday wish list right now. That's why in this video, we are going to dig into the details of this potentially massively undervalued biotech. If you have a stomach or like to digest food, you might want to listen up. The trend post-pandemic has been for biotechs to establish these platforms from which they could potentially launch new generation pharmaceuticals for decades and decades to come. The most mainstream of these brand new platforms are called GLP-1. These are the weight loss drugs that you might have seen. What that was a brand new platform rapidly being scaled up by several pharma companies. Ironwood here has GLP-2. And so as potential investors, we need to wrap our head around what this means. And the shrewdest among you might already be looking at this orange arrow near the bottom. We will not budge. We absolutely need to connect this paradigm shift to sustained profits and cash flows, which this company genuinely seems to have already done. Sit back, relax, and get ready to start calendar year 2026 with a doozy of a diversification play.
This video is intended for educational purposes. Opinions made by me or the Sage Seeds AI are not investment advice.
Now, there's a lot of info on this left, which is why I'm going to direct us to the right, where they've helpfully summarized life-changing therapies for people living with gastrointestinal and rare disease. There are several thousand adult patients with something called short bowel syndrome. What that means for their day-to-day lives is that they have irreparable gastrointestinal damage to the point of deficiency. Unfortunately, that means they need help maintaining their energy, hydration, and here they even put survival. But what apraglutide does is straightforwardly accelerate intestinal growth. It's a therapy that seems to promote self-healing within the gastrointestinal tract. And guys, this is where I say that the modern era of pharmaceuticals is rapidly upon us. These are not iterations on the drugs that we grew up on. These are brand new paradigm shifting outcomes in medicine. And so these two charts show sales history of their main prescription, their main product called Linzess. On the left is a typical sales history graph. Every year the line gets higher. This chart on the right shows us only the brand new customers' consumption. This is how many new people are coming in year after year after year after year, also upwards and to the right, which is a good thing. And so where that left this company at the reporting time of the latest annual report was net sales just shy of $920 million and a GAAP income of 1 penny per share. Now, additional information I want us to remember from this slide, just for our own calculations about how much we'd be willing to pay for this, is that from these net sales of their product, the actual revenue for Ironwood is a little more than a third of that. It was $350 million. Down here, kind of a little bit tucked away, they have about $90 million in cash and cash equivalents, which of course, if we were to purchase this, we should consider to be our $90 million of cash and equivalents. So maybe I'm the naive one here. Is there something wrong with this company for it to be trading so low market cap wise? It's a pretty straightforward business. They have the one product, and we do have their 10K annual report right here. Let's try to find the details about how they make their money. Ironwood makes virtually all of its money from one collaborative partner. AbbVie does represent 99% of all the accounts receivable of Ironwood, as well as 99% of all of the revenue. Now, interestingly enough, you can find in the management's letter that Ironwood has also struck deals with AstraZeneca in order to sell Linzess in China and a third pharmaceutical distributor in order to sell to Japan. Those partnerships have been around for years and have not really paid off. Look at this chart here, US versus the rest of world. Rest of world representing only 2% 2 years ago, just under 3% this year. And so I think there's an argument to be made that Ironwood is under the radar. Now, if you're seeing a product that is supposedly great, then you see they strike all these international partnerships, yet the percentage at the rest of the world is barely taking upward. With just that information in mind, you might be tempted to assume that Ironwood has very limited sales opportunity. Maybe Linzess is too niche to be considered a big innovative medicine. What is is unfortunate for Wall Street is that these statistics are hiding how much of the raw volume of this is increasing every single year. Plus, and this might be the key, Ironwood management is pretty smart, using this flagship product as a base from which to reach an economy of scale in manufacturing any GLP-2 based pharmaceutical candidate. Remember, the paradigm shift I mentioned at the beginning is a shift from releasing new treatments to developing entire platforms from which to continuously spin new treatments off of. Through that lens, we have to shift our thinking away from interpreting these volumes graphs as simply, is this medicine the hot flavor of the decade? Two, if patients are rapidly ramping up their consumption of Linzess, might that speak to the durability of the GLP-2 platform used to develop it? And that being the case, we can transition to where this becomes very, very exciting right now. As of the last annual report, they guided for full year 2025 just under $300 million in revenue at the top of the range. I'm now going to show you what's been going on since then. We are in the middle of their Q4 2025, and so we do have Q2 and Q3 results provided by Zacks and Yahoo Finance. When Q2 earnings came out in August 2025, Ironwood was simply smashing expectations, reporting earnings of 14 cents per share versus the consensus estimate of a loss. But sticking to the revenue figure, second quarter alone was more than 85 million, beating the consensus estimate for that quarter by over 20 million. And so that was a good quarter, but then quarter three, an even huger smash. This was just a handful of weeks ago. Adjusted earnings of 24 cents per share. That is 12 times higher than the earnings per share from a year ago. The revenue passing 120 million for the first time in a quarter, doubling the consensus estimate. Their cash and equivalents had somewhat swelled to just over 140 million. And so for a modern approach to medicine development and commercialization, Ironwood is vulnerable. It is definitely vulnerable because it is so small. The large pharma companies have yet to be able to stamp this out. Even a 1% improvement is probably worth it with someone with severe constipation or worse. Yet you can't rush the healing. You're going to pay for the fancy gastrointestinal medicine when it changes your life so much for the better, and you're going to pay for it for a very long time. That gives Ironwood a lot of financial flexibility in the years to come. Now, if you've made it this far, please smash like and consider subscribing, as we are a small channel. Sharing this or even donating some of your YouTube hype could have a tremendous impact on the trajectory of how this video performs. When it comes to navigating the complexity of modern markets, remember that ape together strong. We will be following up on the technical side of the Ironwood investment in future videos. See ya, Sage Seeds.